Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the OK Life podcast, where, believe it or not, this is actually the first episode of 2026. The last episode of 2025 was Tom Bissell, and believe it or not, this is, for some reason, the first episode of 2026. But I've got a fantastic guest in the form of one of the darting, one of the elite darting referees. I'm going to reference him now as Houdini. Huw Ware, how are you doing, mate? I know you're a very, very busy man at the minute, so I really do appreciate you coming on.
No, that's fine. No, thank you for having me, Craig. Honestly, yeah, no, this is great.
So, currently, you are very, very busy in the schedule, but you still enjoying life, obviously, on the road, doing your dream job, basically.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I wouldn't swap it for the world. Let's put it that way. I mean, so I had 2.5 weeks away. I went up to the Premier League in Newcastle the day
Mhm.
before Newcastle Premier League, and I didn't go home again until the day after Glasgow Premier League, which was week three. So I had a
Mhm.
long time on the road, doing exhibitions and pro tour spotting, and refereeing. Which was fabulous. Then I came back and I had 5 days off. So I had 5 days at home anyway. I wouldn't say they were off completely. I was doing lots of other work, lots of different meetings and lots of different emails flying around and a couple of nights out and going to see friends and things. So they weren't
Mhm.
just 5 days of doing nothing.
Yeah.
Um, but it swings and roundabouts in that way. You can have like 1 week on and 1 week off. I mean, my March, I actually had quite a lot of Mondays to Wednesdays off.
Okay.
But then my April to May is like chocker. So,
Yeah.
like I say, it swings and roundabouts. Booked and busy. So this week I'm flying to Belfast tomorrow with the time of recording. I do Belfast Premier League on the Thursday. Then I have an exhibition in Bolton where I'm emceeing and refereeing on Friday, and something I'm doing a tournament with the Royal Navy on Saturday down in Portsmouth. And
Nice.
then I come back home, and then at home Sunday to Wednesday until the Thursday, which is the Premier League in Cardiff, followed by the UK Open in Minehead Friday to Sunday, and then I think there's a Euro Tour the following Thursday to Sunday,
Mhm.
and yeah, so it swings and roundabouts in terms of work life balance.
Yeah, so obviously, in terms of being on the road, it's currently Premier League season, which obviously everybody that loves the darts knows it's just 16 weeks of 17 weeks, sorry, of consistently on the road around the UK, Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium now. Obviously, they just had the Belgium one second week.
Yeah.
So, so you mentioned there that obviously you started in Newcastle, you were in Antwerp as well, and then the one in Glasgow. So I want to know, what is a day in the life of a professional referee, when you're about to officiate on the Premier League? Like, what does a Thursday look like for you?
Yeah, so I don't know whether I'm about to like sort of burst anyone's bubble here or like sort of ruin some people's imaginations, because we kind of get asked this all the time, and there's always like this. It seems to be a natural assumption that an entire day can be very busy in the life of a dart referee. The day we go on stage, it actually isn't. So if we take Belfast for example, now we're going to fly late Wednesday night.
Hmm.
So when we wake up on the Thursday, you can go for lunch, or you can stay in, or you can have a walk around, or you can do a bit of shopping, like whatever. We go on there at 7 p.m. We don't have to get to the venue until an hour before. So just about 6 o'clock we'll do, because we're very lucky we have an amazing staging crew, production crew, media crew, security crew, everything. So when we get into the venue, everything is sorted and ready, which allows us to then go on stage and do our job without having to think about anything else. Literally, all that is required of us is that we get to the venue, and there might be a 9 dart challenge on stage about 20 minutes before we go live, and some bits and bobs like that.
Yeah.
One of the markers will do the sheets for the night, and that's it. Apart from that, all that is required of us is that we walk onto the stage, referee the game of darts, and then walk off again. and that's all we do. So in terms of the busyness of our entire day, it's not really that busy. A lot of it, the vast majority of our day is very chilled. It's just the hours of 7 p.m. till 11 p.m. can be quite intense. But literally, the only thing that is expected of us is to go on stage and referee, and that's it. There's no vocal warm-ups. There's no mental arithmetic exercises or anything like that. So yeah, it's probably a lot more boring than what a lot of people might think.
Yeah. So in terms of the Premier League action so far, obviously we've had 3 different winners over the past 3 weeks. So Michael van Gerwen was the first week in Newcastle. It was Gerwin Price in Antwerp, and then last week in Glasgow it was Johnny Clayton. In terms of the action, like I know obviously you're there to do a job, but at the same time, like when you're at the venue, when you're not officiating, do you still get to watch the matches and stuff?
When we're actually in the venue?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's only 2 referees that do a Premier League night. And because we have something called second refereeing as well, which is basically like the VAR in football, where we sit to the side of the stage and we have monitors in front of us and we're looking for anything off, if you like, that the first referee may not be able to see. So, for example, Oki encroachments or any scoring errors or something like that. What we normally tend to do is like we'll first ref on stage 2 matches, and then have 2 matches off. And in those matches off, you will second referee. So you're kind of technically working every single game of the night. So yes, we do get to watch every game that goes on. Yeah, we're actually working it every game, either first reffing or second reffing.
Yeah, and so like you said there, the two referees usually referee the night. Is so is that a particular order, or is it the work on a kind of like a rota basis maybe? Like so maybe it's you and Kirk for one night, and then it's maybe Kirk and then Charlie another night and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm down to do 15 out of the 17 Premier Leagues this year. And I believe that Kirk is doing 7 of them with me, and Charlie is doing 7 of them with me. So what we've done is, the first week I worked with Kirk, which is Newcastle week 1, we tossed a coin to decide who would do the final that week. And then off the basis of that, the other referee would do the final the following week. And then the next time we worked together, the following referee, and so on. I did the same thing with Charlie last week in Glasgow. So Charlie did the final last week in Glasgow. So the next time I work with him, wherever that may be, it will be my turn to do the final. I think I'm working with Kirk in Belfast. I might be wrong. I think I'm working with Kirk in Belfast. I did the final the last time we worked together, which was in Antwerp. So therefore, that means he does the final in Belfast this Thursday. Do you see what I mean? So it's left up to us. That's the way that we decided to do it by ourselves. That wasn't dictated to us by anybody else. The vast majority of the time, we are left to our own devices to sort out who's going to referee what.
Okay, no, that seems like a fair kind of way to go about it. Yeah, I never actually knew that, so like, you learn something new every day. So I thought maybe it was just like, like you'll take kind of turns to do a certain amount of matches together, etc. Like that kind of way. I didn't realize like you all kind of communicate between each other who does who and so and so. So
yeah, again, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because like I don't know whether there's like an assumption out there that, so if you take the Grand Slam, for example, I've done the Grand Slam final for the last 2 or 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
The only reason why I've done that is nothing to do with me being like the number 1 referee or something like that. It's simply because after that final, I jump in the car with Andrew Davis, one of the markers, and Dean Williams, the players marshal. Dean Williams has to play as marshal the 2 finalists, obviously. So Andrew and I can't leave until after the final. So we might as well work it. Whilst one of the other referees, whether it's Kirk or whether it's Charlie, they could leave. They could go home earlier. Do you know what I mean? Because they live. So the Grand Slam's in Wolverhampton. They live further away from Wolverhampton than what myself, Andrew, and Dean do. So there's all these sorts of factors that come into play when we decide who's going to referee the final. It's not like, right, he's the number one referee in the world, so therefore he does that final and he does that final. It's not like that. It really isn't. We're very much a team out there. And, you know, I mean, dare I say, you know, we're all very good at the job. If I may say so. We're all at a very equal footing as far as that's concerned,
Okay.
you know. So yeah, as I say, it's all sort of left up to us, and all these sorts of different factors come in.
So there's been a massive change of the guard in the referee world over the past, you know, between 2 and 5 years. Obviously, you've got Ross Bray's effectively retired. I know he's still doing, you know, the World Series events and stuff like that. George Noble obviously retired after the World Championships. Paul Hinks only does the Molded Super Series now. So, like, is there anybody? Well, like, obviously, I'm not going to kind of put you on the spot here, but like, do you kind of miss these guys roundabout? So the likes of Ross, George, and Paul.
Yes, I do. I mean, bearing in mind that I grew up with them all. They were the referees when I was growing up, and I was actually saying in an interview the other day, you know, because they were asking me about who my refereeing inspirations and such like. I grew up with Russ Bray, George Noble, Bruce Spenley, and Paul Hinks. You know, I mean, what better referees to have to look at when I was growing up? And bearing in mind, I've been doing it since I was 17 on the television, and I'm looking around at how do I referee a game of darts? And you look at them, and I particularly looked at George, but all of them, just like the most amazing referees over many years, over many decades. They gave such great service to darts, all of them, and great personalities as well. So yes, I do miss them. There's no question about that.
So I'm going to ask you a quick question here. So I'm going to say that you can't say yourself in this one, okay? So, who out of who out of everybody really that's kind of done darts refereeing has the best 180 call?
Oh, the best 180 call. Oh, that's difficult for me to say. God, Russ Bray's is iconic. George Noble's is iconic. Paul Hinks's is iconic. Bruce Spenley's is iconic. It's so and the great thing about it is that they're all so different. So how do you compare and contrast? You know, how can you tell which is the best? That's a very, very difficult question to answer. And don't you find as well, like, you know, I mean, I get this a lot, and I think all of us referees do it. It's just kind of the nature of things, and in the social media world, that everybody has their favourites, which means that everybody else's must be rubbish. There's like no in between, is there? You know, you can't validate anybody else's if you have your one favourite. You know what I mean? That everyone else's must be, which is not the case. So, it's very difficult to pick 180. I think, it's true because they're all so different.
To be honest, it might shock a few, but like I was always a massive fan of Hinks's 180 just because of the trajectory of it. It's like
big time. And that voice and the way he called it, and it was so instantly recognisable. If you were to line up every single referee's 180s there's ever been, and you heard that when you say that's Paul Hinks, and that's the idea, and that's the name of the game. He had a very unique 180, a great 180 call, and that's the name of the game. So it.
Can you do a Hinksy impression?
Funny enough, I actually can't. I actually really can't. That's not me avoiding the subject. I honestly really can't. I can barely do my own out of context, let alone somebody else's. So.
No, that's fair enough. Don't worry if anybody is listening. I'm not going to embarrass myself and try the Paul Hinks 180. So, although I would love to, I'm not going to. So, how would you rate your own 180, and how did you come about? Obviously, everyone's got their style, but how did you come with your 180 call?
So I don't really know where my 180 came from, actually. I just thought that it sounded, the intonation when I first started anyway, I just thought, well, that intonation sounds a little bit different from everybody else's, so therefore I'll go with that one. I mean, I think it probably has changed and evolved. If you to put a video of my first ever 180 next to my most recent 180, it probably does sound very different because my voice has changed from the age 17 to age 32. My voice has matured and developed, and my stage experience and my voice experience on the stage in front of the doubles has grown. But when you look at Bruce Fenley's 180 back in the 80s, he had almost a Paul Hinks like 180 in terms of how quick it was. And then by the time he retired, it was one of the longest. And I'd love to have asked him how that happened. And maybe he wouldn't have even been able to tell me. He may not have even sort of known. That might have happened subconsciously. I made a conscious change to my 180 about 18 months ago, just a really like sort of subtle thing. But even that's probably evolved subconsciously as well. So I couldn't tell you where exactly it came from. I just remember thinking, well, that maybe sounds a little bit different in terms of the intonation. How I would rate it, it's certainly not the best. I don't really know where it would rank, but I don't think it's the best. I really don't. I think there are better 180 calls out there than mine. But I do my best. I do my best. So, and a lot of people do like it. A lot of people have said that they do like it. A lot of people have said that they don't like it as well. But I think we go back. That's the nature of things. I mean, all of us referees get that. All of us do. It's not just me.
I mean, do you ever wish that you kind of had, that kind of opera tone like Franz Eggerer?
Yeah, I mean, well, this is it. Again, funny enough, I was actually talking in an interview earlier on about Franz, his 180, and similar to what I was saying earlier on about Paul Hinks. If you were to play Franz Engler's 180, everyone would say that's Franz Engler's, and that's the name of the game. Yeah,
it's so operatic.
And why not? Why not? Good for him, because he's come up with something that is instantly recognizable, and that's the name of the game, and lots of people love it, and good for him.
Yeah, so that kind of leads on to the European tour. So you've got European tours to do as well in your busy schedule. Tell us a little bit about the Madness, which is one of the best professional tours in all of sport, to be honest. The European tour, it's pretty mental, isn't it?
It is. Well, from a refereeing perspective, it's just very full on because there's a lot of matches. There's double sessions each day, so you fly in on the Thursday, and that's probably the only day you're going to have to look around if you want to, because from midday on the Friday afternoon until you fly home on the Monday morning, you are in the venue. So you don't really sort of have a chance to look around. And then you'll finish your day at, say, 11 p.m. You might get back to the hotel for 11:15, 11:30, depending on how far away it is. So by 11:30, you are ready for bed. I don't even tend to have a drink down in the bar anymore. I will just tend to go straight to bed because you're up the next day for another full-on day. So as far as we're concerned, yeah, very intense and full-on, but very rewarding. I mean, it's a great tour, like you say. It's very enjoyable. All the sort of great places that you go and see that I would never have the opportunity to go and see if it wasn't for darts, And it's gone to the stage with me now where I look forward to going to new venues. So I'm going to Basel this year for the first time in Switzerland. I've never been to Switzerland before, so I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to New York this year for the first time. I know that's not European tour, but I'm going to New York for the first time. I've never been before. I'm very excited. All sort of new places I like to go, and so it's if you don't get out on that Thursday, and bearing in mind you may have been up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to catch your flights on the Thursday to get to these games. I tend to take 2 flights. I fly from Cardiff to Amsterdam and then Amsterdam on to wherever. So, I mean, if I've been up at 4 in the morning and I get there at 4 p.m., let's say, or even like 6 p.m. or something, well, I'm knackered. I'm probably not going to go and look around because I'm too tired to, So a lot of the time it is airport, hotel, venue, airport, home.
That's the luxury part of the job, I think. So, airport, hotel.
I know. Again, I'm probably making the life sound a lot more boring than what it sort of actually is. But it's it's not all glamour. It's a wonderful job. It's the best job in the world, and it's great and it's fun and all the rest of it. But yeah, like I say, on the European tour for the referee side of things, a lot of it is airport, hotel, venue, and then back home on the Monday morning. And you fly in, you do your work, you do your job, your living, your professional job, you go to work, and then you come home again.
So, in terms of some of the venues on the European Tour schedule, is there any places in particular that you really enjoy going back to?
Well, Graz is very nice. I do enjoy going to Graz, and we tend to go there at a good time of year as well. Graz is beautiful, really beautiful place. Um, Munich is also quite a big one, and I feel I've spoken to a couple of players about this as well. I feel as if Munich, out of all the European tour events we go to, that is a particularly big one in terms of the significance of the event. The fans are mental in there; it is crazy, and they are probably the most enthusiastic darts fans I've ever come across. Have been when we've gone to Munich, actually. So that's always a really good one. And we dressed up in our lederhosen as well, which is always great. Um,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to going to Basel just to see what that's like. That strikes me as like a really nice one. I went to Prague last year and I really wanted to look around. But again, funny enough, talking about venue, hotel, airport, that was one of those weekends, unfortunately. So I'd like to go back there again to see if I could have a look around. But that looked great. Um, yeah, so there's three like sort of straight off the top of my head that have been really good. And I used to enjoy Hamburg as well. We used to hold the European match play in Hamburg, but it's moved now.
Yeah.
My first ever European tour event was in Hamburg, so that holds like a sort of special. And we went out as well, and we looked around on the Thursday, so that holds a special place in my heart as well because that was my first ever Euro tour.
Yeah. Isn't the event in Graz usually about like 5 million degrees, like in terms of temperature?
Do you know a lot of European tour events we did last year had hot stages? I mean, Graz, yes, was one of them, big time. That may have been the hottest, but there were a lot of venues last year where the stages were on the warm side. It didn't matter whether we were in February or even like October. There were lots of stages that were quite warm last year. I remember Kiel was quite warm,
Yeah.
and that. I mean, it was warm outside as well. But what we do is, I mean, I remember in Graz, it was so hot. Um, Normally, there's a space of about 5 to 10 minutes between matches, so all the doors would be open, and they've
Yeah.
great big huge shutters just by the back of the stage in Graz. So they opened those, opened the doors, just to let a bit of air in, or maybe it might have only been for like 3 or 4 minutes. But that was the situation where we were in, just to air the place out before we put the next game on, which was well received. We were all very thankful for that.
Yeah. So before we go into your journey and how you kind of rose to prominence as a referee in darts, I just got a couple of quick questions from what one of my friends actually. So the first one was what was your favourite darts match that you've refereed? I mean, there is about a million now. I do realise that, but
Yeah, all of them in different contexts as well. I mean, I've refereed third round matches of the European Tour, seven, which have just been some of the. I mean, not the most significant or consequential darts matches that you've ever seen, but they've been the best darts matches you could ever wish to referee. Both players have averaged 107, 6-5. It doesn't get any better. Um, There'd be matches where I've refereed nine darters in. They've got to be right up there purely for that one leg. The rest of the game may not have been particularly memorable, but there was a 9 dart finish in it, so that game is immortalised. That leg is immortalised, and you're there. Is it a world final because of the significance of the event? I would have to say the second half of the world final between Michael Van Gerwen and Luke Littler that I did. Being the voice of Luke Littler's first world title win,
yeah,
and also the effect that had on my own personal profile, on my own personal career. I was in the press for a good 10 days after that for being the first openly gay referee to referee a World Darts final. So all that sort of, and I had messages from friends, from people who I've known from all walks of my life, right across my life. After that time, from primary school, my 2 secondary schools, I used to play squash, I used to play cricket, from the darts world, from university, from all walks of my life. So it was just the most amazing 10 days that I, was very privileged to have had the opportunity to have in my life. So I would have to say the second half of the 2025, yes, World Final. That's my favourite.
And the second question was, in terms of your own darting ability, did you ever have any aspirations to try and play darts at a decent level?
Oh yeah, big time, all the way through my teenage years. Yep, that was my dream to be world champion, and that was it. When I actually played for Wales at the WDF World Cup Youth in Aberdeen in 2011, a few months before I
Okay.
started refereeing on television. And in the room that day were lads who have like gone on to do like really sort of great things in darts. Max
Well,
Hopp was in the room, and he was 13 years old.
yeah, sorry, I was about to say, was Nick Kenny on the team back then in
Nick
2011?
Kenny was the year before me.
Oh, okay.
But I've known
Okay.
Nick. I mean, I've known Nick. We've known each other since we were like 13, 14, and he was
Yeah.
always a great player who was obviously going to go on and do great things. So he was in that mold as well, but he
Yeah.
wasn't in my year of being in the Europe Cup. Max Hopp was in the room. He was 13. Reece Griffin was on my team.
Okay, yeah, good fun.
So who's now on the Pro Tour now.
Mhm.
Jake Jones, Pro Tour player in the past. Josh Payne, Pro Tour player in the past.
Yeah.
Jimmy Van Schie was playing for the Netherlands now.
Big
He's gone on.
Jimmy, Big Jimmy.
Um,
Oh, what a
Je-
guy.
yeah, Jeffrey De Zwaan, Jimi Hendriks, all those sorts of players who they were obviously the ones that were going to go on and do something in the sport. I didn't fall into that category. I was all right, but I didn't fall into that category. And I remember that sort of came into my thinking when they came to me and asked if I wanted to referee on television for the first time. I knew that after that, once I started refereeing on telly, I would put the darts down. And I was happy to do that because I thought, well, I'm probably not going to be good enough. I could be 32 years old now, like I am, and have gotten nowhere. And if I said no to the refereeing to give my playing more of a chance, they would have found somebody else. They would have never come back to ask me to referee again. They would have found somebody else, and that person would have probably gone on. So I thought, well, I'm going to take this now. I've played for Wales. That's probably the best that achievement that I'm probably going to have in my career. So I'm going to put the darts down and concentrate on the refereeing. And funny enough, it wasn't too long after that I started going to university and I moved out from my family home, and I didn't take my dartboard with me because I didn't have any aspirations to play anymore. And my life priorities of a nighttime when I was in university, my freshers student and all the rest of it, like all my nighttime priorities changed all of a sudden from wanting to spend my nights in playing darts. So yeah.
Yeah, just for context, I absolutely love Jimmy Van Schie. What a guy! What a guy!
Can
What
I
the
just
best
say,
one.
probably my greatest darting achievement, I beat him in the semi-finals of the team event of the Europe
I
Cup
need to
Youth. Yeah,
I, I need to tell the big Dutch Sequoia that, to be honest. Like
I know.
Hugh Ware beat you in the semi-finals?
Yeah, it was
Was
the
it?
team event, and the format of the team event, so it was Wales versus Netherlands, and each member of the team played every other member of the Dutch team in
Mhm.
over the best of one leg
Yeah,
of 5-1, and in the one leg of 5-1 that we both had on stage with everybody watching, I beat him in that one leg. So that's my greatest darting achievement. Well, that and beating Gerwyn
well
Price in
done.
the Bullseye reality challenge that we did. That's on YouTube. Um, but yeah, it was uh, it was amazing, and it's so brilliant to see Jimmy go on to achieve what he's achieved, especially recently, of course. Being Lakeside world champion, it's fantastic.
I speak to Jimmy every so often, so I might have to mention that. Anyway, well done. Good
Yeah, yeah,
achievement.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a lovely guy as well. I mean, I remember he came up to say hello to me at the Pro Tour last year, and we hadn't. I don't think we'd seen each other since that tournament.
Yeah.
And that was about 14, 15 years ago now. No, he's a lovely lad, great dart player, and no, I'm very happy to see him kick on.
So even like 15 years ago, were you still having to look up like this, like because
Yeah, he was
he
very
is a
tall. Yeah,
big man.
he was. He was very. I mean, I'm tall as well, and I was tall for my age as well. But yeah, he was taller. Yeah, 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 big tall man, looking down at the treble 20 instead of looking up or level. Um,
just, just having to look up like this, like
yeah,
okay, hello.
yeah, big time. Yeah, he was the only person I beat. Everybody else beat me. Jimi Hendrix beat me. Jeffrey De Zwaan beat me, and I think Mike Seidberg beat me as well. We lost. We didn't lose. I want to say we lost 9-5 or something like that, or 9-4, something
Yeah.
like that. Anyway, we had our bits and pieces, but they were a very good team. That Netherlands, I mean, Jeffrey De Zwaan. Mike Seidvik as well. And I mean, Jimi Hendrix was the best player in the room, probably. I mean, he won everything. He won the singles, he won the doubles, won the team event. He was the best player in the room. The leg he had against me, he went out in 13 darts. He was a brilliant player when he was a youth player. Absolutely fantastic.
No, fair play. And sorry, I know we're kind of stalling this a little bit between your career, but like in terms of darts just now, do you ever get a chance to have a throw every so often?
Sometimes, yeah, if I'm at a tournament or something, but not very often, I must say. Maybe 4 or 5 times a year,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't have a dartboard at home here in my flat. No, nothing, nothing. It doesn't interest me, Craig, if I'm honest. I don't have any drive at all to throw darts.
Okay.
Isn't that strange? So I used to all the time when I was a kid, even like between, when the adverts came on while the darts was on the television. I'd, while the advert break was on, I'd go upstairs and have a chuck, you know. Um, but no, I don't have any motivation to play darts anymore. No, not at all.
No, that's fair enough. Everyone goes through stages, I suppose. So, no, fair play. Right. So, how did you first discover the game of darts? And obviously you mentioned there about how you played to a semi decent level before jumping into the refereeing aspect. But also, what age were you roughly when you got asked to start refereeing darts matches?
So I was 11 years old, and I watched Phil Taylor versus Dennis Priestley in the second round of the World Match Play 2005, which to this day is still one of the top 10 darts matches I've ever seen. And looking back on it, it just played, the whole match played as like one big advert to me for how good darts can be.
Yeah.
And I was hooked after that, just absolutely hooked.
Yeah, no, well, that's fair enough. I mean, to be honest, that's when Taylor was at his dominant best, wasn't it? So,
Yeah, and
yeah,
he nearly lost the game, and this is in an era where he never lost. And that sort of idea that you had missed darts under pressure when you were expecting them to hit darts under pressure when you were maybe expecting them to miss. Phil was ahead, looked like he was going to win. Then Dennis was ahead, looked like he was going to win. Then Phil comes back and wins at the end. And then the following night, Phil did go out to John Part. And so it was like, I think a tournament, I was saying to somebody earlier, there's an element of theatre about darts, the crowd involvement, the way
yeah,
a tournament sort of pans out, the idea that someone can have a great match and nearly lose but come through only to then lose the next night. A tournament can almost be like a soap opera in that respect, that sort of element of theatre to it, the narratives that are brought up in each and every televised tournament, uh, new players that come along, their backstories, all those international qualifiers, for example, who won at the World Championships for the first time this year, David Munir, I mean, what a story. How many people are now into darts after watching that match? Having never seen darts before, if you never knew what darts was about, imagine watching that game.
yeah.
That he had against Mike DeDecker. You're bound to be hooked after that, and that's exactly the same effect. But funny enough, I've actually been thinking, like, ever since Luke Littler brought all these kids into darts now,
Mhm.
I went through what all these kids are going through now 20 years ago.
Yeah,
It's exactly all the kids, and any kids who are listening to this podcast now, anyone who's gone into darts in the last couple of years, all will remember the first darts match that they ever watched. I went through the exact same processes as they went through
yeah.
back in 2005. So
A long time ago now here. A
a
long
long
time
time
ago.
ago, in the dim and distant past. Yes, yes, yeah. I mean,
So,
I didn't think that it would have. I mean, when I was watching that game, I
yeah.
didn't think that I was going to have like the sort of the life changing effect, or that it would change the direction of travel in my life. By the time I'm 32, I didn't think it would have kind of that effect. I'm very lucky.
So, in terms of, starting to call darts matches, I take it you just like started down like the local leagues and stuff, and then obviously before the PDC, you were on the BDO, weren't you?
Yes, yeah, I refereed for the BDO for 5 years.
So like when roughly did you get your big break at the BDO, and how did that kind of come about?
So I was refereeing for Glamorgan County. I was doing that since I was about 14 or 15. So I'd done about 3 years of that. And the Glamorgan officials, Sue and Wayne Williams, took over the BDO from Ollie Croft. And that
Hmm.
night, they actually phoned me to say we'd like you to referee at the Women's World Masters. I'd actually qualified for the event as a player for the boys' events.
Yeah,
Promptly went out first round to Jimmy Hendriks. I had a bad draw there. I think he actually won it. He went on. He won the event. I think if I remember rightly. Yeah, he beat me in the first round, and I refed him winning it in the final. Anyway, so they took me to meet Martin Fitzmaurice, who was the head referee and the MC, of course, at the time. And he said that we're going to give you the boys' final and the girls' final, which were pre-recorded for the television, but they weren't going out as live. They'd be shown later as part of the
yeah,
broadcast. And then, depending on how I do in those, maybe one or two of the men's matches after that. So I did those two finals. They were really happy with me. They gave me a men's match live on the television later that day. And then after that, they kind of assimilated me as part of their team for the last 2 days of the tournament, the televised stages. And at the end of day two, I remember I was on stage. I was going to do the last match of the session, which was Stephen Bunting. And Martin said to me on stage, would you like to come and do Lakeside in a few months' time? When I was 18, because I would have turned 18 by then. And so I said yes. And that's pretty much how it happened.
yeah. I mean, like when you got to Lakeside, obviously, getting this big break as a referee, like even for yourself, was there any nerves when you got to Lakeside? Like, obviously, it's a big stage, and
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah, big time. I mean, it was the whole thing was a blur. Um, there were four matches that I've ever refereed that have been blurs to me that I can't really remember. My television debut in the BDO at the World Masters, my
mhm,
Lakeside debut,
yeah,
my first ever Premier League darts match in 2017, and the second half of the World Final between Littler and Van Gerwen. I can't really remember much from any of those matches, and
yeah,
I mean, I've talked before about like a bad mistake I made at my debut match at Lakeside, and I think the fact that I was sort of so nervous and the whole thing was a bit of a blur, riding by the seat of my pants, if you like, that kind of
mhm,
contributed to my blurred thinking of
yeah,
what went on when that mistake happened because I wasn't able to think clearly. I just wasn't, just because of the nerves and because it was just a totally out of body experience up there, you know. Um, so yeah, no, yeah, no, very, very nervous.
So, like, even as a referee of over what you're talking about, what 14, 15 years now, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like even now, is there times that maybe you get a little bit nervous of cocking up on the big stage and stuff like that?
I'm not nervous about cocking up. I'm nervous about doing a good job, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
There's sort of like a slight difference. Um, yeah, mistakes happen. I mean, mistakes are going to have a price. The mistakes I've made in my career, and I'm sure I will do in the future. You just try to minimize them as best
Yeah,
you can, you know. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we all make mistakes from time to time. And a lot of it, what I tell any sort of like budding referees who come to me is that it's not about making mistakes; it's how you handle it. You know, how quickly can you put it out of your head
yeah,
and just carry on, as if nothing happened. Because, you could dwell on it, but there's another three darts entering the board roundabout now as you're dwelling on it. You got another score to counter. You got another situation to manage or whatever. So you can't let these things affect you. We all make mistakes at the end of the day, you know. That's absolutely fine. I mean, it was a shame for me to make a mistake on my Lakeside debut when I was just 18 years old, and there had never been an 18 years old referee on the stage before. And
yeah.
people were saying, "Oh, he's too young," this and that. Even though I went the entire rest of the week, I didn't make one mistake at all. But that one mistake, and the nature of it was bad. So but yeah, they're part and parcel of your upbringing. And I mean, I can't remember who it was, and I can't remember who said it, but there was a referee that went up on stage over the last few years, and I think they made a mistake in their first game, and somebody off the stage said, "Well, he'll be all right now." He's got the mistake out the way and up the road. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Uh, so and that can always kind of help you. That can always kind of help you take the pressure off, if you like. No, right, you've made a mistake. That's it. Now you can relax. It's funny how that works.
And so when you make the move over to the PDC, I take it there was a sense of excitement for this new chapter as well, especially at first for you. It's like the biggest stage in the world. It's the biggest company, sorry, in darts, and like the first the first couple of weeks in the PDC, was it like pinch me moments for you? Obviously, knowing that you made it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the funny thing is, I didn't actually do much in my first few years with the PDC because there was obviously a very established team that were
Yeah,
already in front of me. So I didn't really sort of do much. I actually was working for BBC Radio L Sport from 2016 up until 2020, and that was probably my main source of income after I left university. So for like a good 5 years,
yeah.
um, that was my main job in life, and not refereeing darts for the PDC. So, but yeah, I mean, 2017 I refereed my first European Tour event and my first Premier League darts event. 2018 had a little bit more work. 2019 a little bit more work again, and then COVID came along,
Hmm.
and that really like sort of obstructed me for a good 18 months. But in the September of 2021 was when I had a phone call to say that I was moving up from the fifth member of a team of four, if you like, to a fourth member of a team of four. And that's when everything really started to change and my career really started to progress. So it took a good 5 years really to sort of get to that stage. And I knew that when I joined the PDC, like I knew that I was fully prepared for that. I was happy with that. That it wasn't an issue like at all. But yeah, I mean, refereeing my first Premier League darts event, which was in Exeter, I only did one match. It was Barney against Chizzy.
Hmm.
And I mean, I grew up with Raymond van Barneveld. I grew up in some ways with Dave. I remember being a kid watching Dave Chisnell reach the Lakeside final for the first time. I grew up watching the Premier League. I remember the first Premier League I ever watched was Barney's debut when darts really changed and the
Yeah.
spark was lit after he came across. I remember watching that as like a wide-eyed 12-year-old, however old I was. There I was refereeing for them both in the Premier League. So yeah, there was some real pinch me moments. I mean, there were pinch me moments in the BDO as well. I mean, I think that was one of the things about being a referee being so young, was that it wasn't like I was refereeing for a whole generation of players that I didn't know. I was literally refereeing for my heroes, the people who
Yeah.
I've been sort of idolizing on the television not only 2 years before. I'm refereeing for those same people. So it was sort of quite intimidating, really, for those first few years. And if I'm still around the right players who were playing when I was a kid, I still get a little bit sort of nervous and intimidated around them. I guess because I grew up with them. Whereas some of the
Yeah.
new players that have come along, who I've been around longer than what they have, I don't get that same feeling, funny enough.
So when you first rock up to the Palace to officiate your first ever, World Championship match, what was that sense of? Um, I mean, to be honest, the whole Alexandra Palace experience, it's a whirlwind, isn't it? Especially with it being the biggest tournament in darts, the crowd, like the biggest crowds, and stuff like that. Obviously, the biggest prize fund as well. So whenever you rock up to Alexandra Palace, I take it in terms of achievements wise, like refereeing at any world championship has got to be up there.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, the World Championships is the pinnacle of a referee's career. Yeah, there's no
Hmm.
question about that. I've been very fortunate. I've never done a full World final. I've only ever done halves. I did the first half of the 2013 final between Scott Waits and Tony O'Shea, which actually ended up being the majority of the final, actually, funny enough. And then I did the second half of the 2014 final, which Stephen Bunting won when he became world champion, when he beat Alan Norris in the 2014 Lakeside, and then the 2025 one
Yeah.
between Lidler and Van Gogh in the second half of that. So yeah, but yeah, there's no question about the World Championships is the pinnacle of any referee's career. And Alexandra Palace has now turned into an iconic venue in its own right. It has been so noisy in a brilliant way, not even like in a bad way, in an absolutely brilliant way. You can really feel that when you're up there, more so than anywhere else we go to in the world for me, or any stage that I've ever been on anyway, where the noise is coming from behind you, it's coming from the center, it's coming from over there, it's left, it's right, it's up and down. Everybody's up. It's a great atmosphere. Uh, and it makes for a different feeling and a different stage and a different vibe than anywhere else we go to in the world for me.
So the last thing I want to talk about before I ask you like a few general questions at the end about yourself. So obviously in the past couple of years, especially in World Darts, in PDC, the whole whistling now in the game, it seems to be stamped in the game at the minute, and obviously it is very annoying and off-putting for the players as well. And there's been a few occasions where you've had to tell the crowd to shut up, basically, and stop whistling, etc., etc. Um, what's your stance on the whole whistling? I don't know. I don't know how much you're allowed to say in this. Like you can say as much as you want, or you can say as little as you want on it. But like whistling as a whole, what's your stance on it?
Well, yeah, I mean, very quickly, I mean, I can't stand whistling because I don't understand why you would want to put somebody off from hitting the double or whatever. I don't think that's the crowd's place,
Yeah,
frankly, to try and alter the outcome of the game in that way. We all just want to see an honest and fair game of darts, me as much as anybody else. And I think
yeah,
the players, I mean, I'm up on that stage with them. It's very intense. How they do it and how they hold themselves together, I have no idea. I could never do that under that pressure.
yeah,
And then on top of that, you've got somebody trying to put them off, and they've worked so hard during that game to build themselves up to trying to hit the winning double for argument's sake, and somebody's putting them off. And it's when it's malicious, when it truly is
Mhm.
malicious, and you can tell when it's malicious. That really is when I get upset. I mean, sometimes there are times you can step in. I think genuinely there are sometimes it's easier to step in than others because the way I do, I mean, I can't speak for any other referee about this because I'm sure they all have their own ways of handling it,
Yeah,
engaging what's going on. Just for me, sometimes I get a feeling as to whether it would be a good idea for me to step in or not. I mean, at the Grand Slam of darts, I stepped in a fair amount because the feeling I was getting, it was a very, very good crowd. And a
yeah,
lot of them were giving very best of order, which was kind of amplifying and highlighting even more the one person. But I got the feeling if I was to turn around and say something over the microphone, it wouldn't be the case that somebody else would start and somebody else would start, and we have a worse situation than we had before I
yeah,
said anything. At a lot of Premier League venues where it's like 10,000 and it's rowdy and it's all the rest of it, I sometimes get the feeling that if I was to turn around on the microphone and say something, then they may stop, but he might start over there, and they might start over there, and they might start over there. So and sometimes, you can, okay, right, this person's whistling. He wants attention. I'm not going to give him that attention. And then he may stop that way. So there's more than one way to approach the situation. And I know as well that our security are red hot. The moment someone starts whistling, they're on the lookout for them and trying to find them. But unfortunately, if we take the Premier League, for example, trying to find one in 10,000 is not easy.
yeah,
And there have been times where I've been on the stage and I have thought that the whistling has been coming from that area, and it hasn't at all. It's been coming from an area way over there.
mhm,
And funny, we probably need the guy to keep on whistling in order for us to find him, if that makes sense.
yeah,
So it's very difficult. I think a lot of people think it's easy to stop it. Um, it isn't. It's not as black and white as what people sometimes make it out to be. Some of the discussions that I see about it, but it's dreadful, and none of us referees condone it. I think I can speak quite convincingly on behalf of all of us that none of us like it. We all hate it. None of us condone it, no matter how we handle it, because it's making our life, isn't it, Craig? You know me. But I mean,
yeah,
our lives are difficult enough if they're trying to keep track of the scores in a very fast-paced game, under the lights and the TV lights and what's at stake, whatever it is that they're playing for. The last thing we need is another plate to spin up there, when we're already spinning enough plates as it is. And now we've got to deal with something in the crowd. It makes our job a lot harder as well, so it's how we stop it. I have absolutely no idea. I think the only way we can stop it is by preempting it. And you can't preempt somebody whistling. That's impossible. It's unfortunately, I can't see it leaving the game anytime soon. I just hope that people come to their senses and use their common sense and don't try and put somebody off and don't try and be malicious. We all want to see a good game of darts at the end of the day. So let's just enjoy the darts and not try and put somebody off. That's not necessary.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it also puts you as the officiator on the stage. It puts you in an awkward spot as well. As you say, whether to call out and call out the crowd on the behaviour or just not to say anything. Obviously, you're trying to do your job up there as well, and it kind of puts you in an awkward spot.
Yeah, exactly. It gives us something else to deal with, and there have been times where I've been sort of very harsh with the crowd. There have been other times as well where it may not be whistling, it might be something else, like someone shouting something, which hasn't been malicious. It's put off the player, but it's not been malicious. It's just been a case of, I don't know whether they think that it's almost like they're watching television and they're not. They're actually in the crowd and we're not that far away from them. We can actually hear them up on stage. Maybe a lot of people don't realise just how much we can hear, whether it's whistling or whether it's shouting, whatever it is. We can actually hear quite clearly on the stage what is being said and what is being done. They're not watching on television. They're in the same room as us. And sometimes maybe that can get forgotten. So sometimes it isn't malicious. And sometimes it is. And it's when it is so blatantly and clearly malicious, that is when I get really annoyed. That is when I will tend to turn around, whether it's on the microphone or whether it's off the microphone, and I will try and talk directly to that person. So I don't want to talk to 9,999 of them who are doing nothing wrong. I want to focus on you. I want to make you aware and make you feel, that you better stop. That's probably the best that I can do in the position that I am. I can't throw them out. I can't eject them. I can't do this and that, and the other. There is only so much we can do as referees. And everything that we do is going to be after the fact. That's probably the most frustrating thing. A player can be put off and we can stop the game, or we can throw them out and we can ban them, or we can whatever it is we want to do. But the moment has gone. The player has been put off and they can't have that dart back. They can't have that turned back. Everything we do is going to be after it's happened. And that's probably the most frustrating thing.
Yeah. Obviously, a big part of the game now, at these events, is obviously alcohol consumption. Obviously, when you've been, drinking for a good 3-4 hours, inevitably, it's at one point it's going to happen. You're going to get a couple of pissed up dickheads, and it's just in that regard, there's nothing really you can do either. But
and this is it.
It just feels like it seems to be more and more now. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. I mean, with the growth of darts, I mean, the crowds we play in front of are absolutely unbelievable. It is. I mean, bearing in mind, I've been watching darts since 2005 when we were in Sunderland Leisure Centre and places like this. We're now in the Three Arena in Dublin and the O2 in London, in front of 20,000 people. It is absolutely unbelievable. And when all of a sudden you've got 20,000 people in there instead of 500, naturally you're going to get one or two, aren't you? If they started playing snooker in front of 10,000 people, I bet you any money in the world that exactly the same thing would happen there as well. It's just the nature of these things. Unfortunately, it's the one and only downside there is to playing in front of these unbelievable, amazing, fantastic crowds who, at the end of the day, we wouldn't swap for the world. We don't want to go back to Sunderland Leisure Centre. With all due respect to Sunderland Leisure Centre, obviously, I'm sure the manager's watching. So sorry to the manager of the Central Left Centre, but we don't want to go back. We want to stay in these venues. We want as many people to come to a darts night as humanly possible. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure, things that I've been reading lately, but it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's got the scope to get bigger. I'm sure, we all want darts to be as big as it can be. This is just the one downside, unfortunately. And it is the only one. It's a big one, but it's the only one. So, let's all just have a good time, have a good night, and enjoy the darts, and let's not try and put anybody off who ultimately is up there for your entertainment. Ultimately, they're up there trying to entertain you.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll finish with a few questions, obviously, because we know you're a busy man, and we'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening. But so favorite country that you've travelled to for darts? So like obviously for your job.
Yeah, two countries, can't split them: Australia and New Zealand. That trip, that World Series of Darts trip, that 3.5 of the best weeks of my life.
I mean, to be honest, if you weren't a darts referee, could you see yourself like going to these places? No, or
No. Oh God, no, absolutely not. No, unless it was for like a once in a lifetime holiday or something. No.
and so sorry, see when you get to Australia and New Zealand, like, do you get to spend much time there and explore the city and stuff?
Yes, yes. Those World Series trips, the majority, maybe not all, but the majority of them, there is more scope to look around and to go and have like good time. I mean, the Australia New Zealand trip that I went on was almost basically like a working holiday. We only worked the Fridays and the Saturdays for those 3 weeks. All the other days we had to ourselves. So that was the time where you could look around and chill and relax and go shopping and go and see the sights and all the rest of it. So yeah, the World Series is slightly different in that respect. Most of them, maybe not all, but most of them.
What makes you happy in life?
Seeing my friends, seeing my family. I mean, I go to the gym. I go to restaurants with my friends. I catch up with them. I go out with them. I go clubbing. I like my PS5. I like my games. I like my music. I like a bit of me time sometimes. I like going out. Yeah, that all makes me happy.
In terms of in terms of your dart and idols growing up, obviously I can only imagine like Phil Taylor, etc. But is there anybody else?
Yeah, Dennis Priestley and John Parts. Those are my two sort of favourites growing up. Yeah, I used to love them both. I love Dennis for the amount of comebacks he used to have in games. How he used to never give up, and obviously, he had his battle with prostate cancer at that time, and the way he sort of came through that and carried on playing darts was just inspirational. He actually came and did an exhibition for us down in Barry when I was 16, I think, and he was great, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, absolutely brilliant dart player, brilliant dart, but underrated. I think actually when we look back through his history, an underrated dart player. Actually, I think people easily forget. I mean, I wasn't around in 1990 to 1994, but from what people say, and you look at his results and things, probably the best player in the world actually. From 1990 to 1994, 95, it actually wasn't Phil Taylor, it was Dennis Priestley. And people forget that. And then John Part similarly had a mentality to bring out the best of himself with the talent that he had. I felt 3-time world champion, just a class act at all times.
Best moment you've ever witnessed in darts?
The best moment I've ever witnessed. Well, I think the greatest achievement that there's been in darts were Phil Taylor's 2 9-darters at Wembley in 2010. That's never been done since. Michael Van Gerwen was 1 dart off it when he missed the double 12 for 2 consecutive 9-darters. I mean, I think that's probably the next thing that we're waiting for when we think, we've had two nine darters in one match from one player. We've had
Yeah,
two nine darters in one match, one each from
yeah.
each player with James Wade and
Thornton and
Robert
Wade.
Thornton.
Yeah,
That's probably the next thing to go now, is two consecutive nine darters. And I think that will happen. I really do.
yeah.
That is going to happen one of these days, and it may not be far off, actually.
Who's the most likely candidate? It's got to be Littler, isn't it?
He's got to be right up there. I think they all could. Trade. I wouldn't like to give like one name. I think they all could.
Yeah.
They're all more than capable of it. I think that's the next sort of big barrier in terms of achievements to fall, is to have two consecutive nine darters.
Yeah, I was going to mention briefly about obviously Michael and Michael World Final, where obviously they were both on nine darters, and obviously Smith hit it in the end.
Yeah, of course. Well, so Michael Smith hit it after Michael missed, and then Luke Littler hit it while Josh Rock was sat waiting. At the World Match Play. So we've had those two things have happened. So yeah, I think the next one's the two consecutive nines.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here as well about your own podcast, Tops and Tails. If anybody does have time, please go and listen to Tops and Tails. Is very, very good podcast.
Oh, thank you.
So, in terms of Tops and Tails, who has been your favourite guest? Now, I know this might be a tough question for you, but is there anybody in particular that stands out?
I honestly don't have a favourite. I'll tell you why. Because every single person that I've had on have done me the great service of being open and honest and genuine and talkative and answered all my questions, never refused a question, and never shied away from anything that I've asked them. And they've answered with that same level of honesty and authenticity. So it would be unfair of me to sort of pick one as that's my favourite, to be honest. They've all of them have been absolutely brilliant. And I'm so thankful to all of them who have given up their good time to come on and speak to me, really. It would be difficult to pick one favourite, if I'm honest.
Oh, I was going to say it's got to be Richie Burnett, isn't it?
Oh well, he was great. Absolutely. What a character. I mean, dear me, there's some stories on him, and just the way that's Richie. We talking about genuineness and authenticity. That's Richie. Funny, hilarious, great sense of humour. Never quite know what he's going to say next, I suppose.
I can imagine.
But charming and endearing. I mean, we've known each other. My God, he's known me since I was about 13. I used to referee exhibitions with him, like we talked about in the podcast. I used to referee his exhibitions for him when I was about 14, 15. So he's known me way back then. So we've always known each other and got on well with each other over the years. Yeah, he's fabulous. He really is. I was so pleased to be able to showcase his humour and the way he is, in that way. But it was great.
So last but not least, so obviously you've not really done podcasting that long. So what's the biggest challenges that you've had to face during the Tops and Tails series?
Oh, I think sort of I've basically, a long story short, is that I've been a one-man band with it for the first year. And I'm not really a production technical person, as people may have noticed watching some of our videos. We're very much building it from the ground up. So I think sort of being responsible for everything on the technical side, on the production side, the camera setups that you've been watching have all been me, have all been where I've set those cameras. And every so often as well, I'll let you in on this. My editor edits this out. Every so often, and I'll tell my guests before we start, I'll say to them, listen, Gerwin, for example, just to let you know, as you're talking, sometimes you may see me going like this. And I'm checking all the cameras and the audio equipment to make sure they're still recording, to make sure that they're in shots, like, nothing's gone wrong. So I've been saying to my guests, please don't think I'm ignoring you or I'm switching off from you. I'm just making sure that everything's still working. So
Yeah.
even whilst we're recording the episodes and I'm talking to them and I'm listening to them and I'm thinking about what to say next to them and all this kind of thing, I've still got that in the back of my brain, and I've had nightmares, in the past with episodes and things where things have gone wrong on the technical side of things. No, been a nightmare. But yeah, that's probably been the hardest part, I think.
Right, so we shall end it here. Obviously, you've got a flight to Belfast tomorrow, so I'm sure that'll be very exciting for you. Obviously, Premier League night on Thursday. Yes, so Hugh, thank you so much. I know you're very busy man at the minute, and thank you for your generosity and coming on to chat.
Yeah, no, thank you, Crane. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And guys, if you are listening, please do check out Tops and Tails podcast on YouTube and give it a like and subscribe. And yeah, it's all good content at the end of the day with all the top pros. So, Hugh, thank you very much, mate, and all the best to you.
Thank you, Craig. Yeah, all the best. Cheers now. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Bye.